Well, there's always two parts to postseason, three actually. One, to get in, and two, to get here, and three, to be playing Tuesday night. So we're fortunate that we took care of the first two, and then we've got one last obstacle here, and the hardest part is the anticipation, the waiting, and at least we know who we're playing now, and I think the excitement of what's happening tomorrow night is obviously on our team right now. You can feel it this morning, and like I always say when I'm up here, we're just anxious to play. That's the best part.
Questions? We'll start down here.
Good morning, Kareth Burke with SNY. With UConn on the doorstep of history with the chance to win a fourth straight national title, you've also talked about how difficult it is to win one national championship. In the event that UConn succeeds tomorrow, do you wonder if the uniqueness, the things that made this season, will get bundled up in that four straight national title talk and not be recognized for its own merit?
I don't think so. That was what I was thinking when you were saying that. It's this particular team is its own entity, and this is their one opportunity to win a national championship. So if we had Stephanie Dolson and Bria Hartley and Kalina and Kia and Kelly Farris and all those other guys, we would say, wow, these guys are unbelievable. But it's not that. It's not that. It's this particular team with this group of individuals, and we happen to have three seniors that have been there for the other three, but we're trying to treat it as it's for this particular team, and keep the focus the way we kind of have all season long, and not get. They know it, and after it's over, I guess it'll be placed where it needs to be placed. I don't know, but right now the focus is just on this particular team right now.
Question right here in the middle.
Yes, David Woods from the Indianapolis Star. Connecticut's run of championships coincides with the birth and growth of the WNBA. Do you take some satisfaction or gratification in seeing UConn's contributions to the pro game?
Yeah. That 95 season was really one for the ages, no matter what we do now or in the future, there'll never be the hysteria that surrounded that particular season. And the fact that was followed immediately by the Olympics in Atlanta, and then immediately with the WNBA. I'm most proud of the fact that we've had so many great players impact that league since day one. And it didn't exist when Rebecca Lobo came to Connecticut. And now since then, kids dream about playing in that league. And maybe one of the reasons they come to Connecticut is to play in that league. So we've done some amazing things in the last 20 years, and for the WNBA, a women's professional basketball league, to still be in existence 20 years later and doing well, we should all be proud of that.
Question in the back corner.
Lindsay Chanel, Sports Illustrated. Geno, on the teleconference last week, you were asked, what does it mean, to have a school make its first Final Four run? And you said the next 5 seasons are what matters. Can they come back? So I was curious, what does women's basketball need to look like in 5 years to grow the game? Do you need, new Final Four participants every year? Do these 3 teams need to come back a lot? Does someone need to emerge as a team that can regularly challenge you?
5 years from now? Any other 3 schools than us, I think, would be perfect. Preferably a different 3 every year. That'd be my idea of perfection. But it's unrealistic to think that there's going to be a different set of people at the Final Four every year or on a regular basis. That just doesn't happen in sports. We all talk about, is there parity? Look at men's college basketball. You know what caused parity? Guys leaving for the NBA. As guys stay in the league now, who's in the Final Four? Generally speaking, So the fact that players can stay for 4 years makes it hard for people to break through. Now, what will help that is, and it's already happened, don't get me wrong, it's already happened, where you have 20 years ago in 1995, I may have said this, when we were recruiting Rebecca Lobo, there may have been 10 kids in the country that you knew if you got 1 or 2 of those kids, you had a chance to have a great team. Well, they all went to 3 schools or 4 schools or 5 maybe. 5 schools got 2 each. So it was really hard for everybody else to break through. So now there may be 25 of those kids. I'll even give you 30. But they go to 25 schools. So there's no great teams that can dominate every year, but a few like Notre Dame, for instance. But now there's a Syracuse, there's a Washington, and Oregon State, and South Carolina, and, UCLA, and, you name it, that all of a sudden have made themselves way better than they ever were. We need more good players coming out of high school. And they need to be coached better. And once those 2 things coincide, I really do think from a historical perspective, what UCLA men were doing in the late 60s, early 70s is where we're at today. This NCAA tournament didn't start till 1983, I think, right? So we're really, really young in our history. So we're probably where they were. And a lot's happened since then. And I think a lot will happen. But I think you're always going to have a dominant or 2 dominant teams that you need to have. Because if you have 4 new teams every year, I don't know that it creates the national interest that you want. There's always somebody that's got to be here that half the people want to win again, and the other half can't wait for anybody but them to win.
Question down here, Jim.
Jim Fuller, New Haven Register. You've had some great three-point shooting teams. Syracuse is breaking every three-point record in the NCAA tournament. What's so special about those 3 players, and how dangerous are they because of their ability to shoot the 3?
Well, it's a real odd situation because during the regular season, that wasn't the case. Maybe I'm missing the boat here, but during the regular season, they took a lot, and they missed a lot of them. But that's what's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. You only have to make them for 3 weekends. And since the first weekend, they've been making them. And they're not shy about taking them. Obviously, I think they average 30 a game. So the three-point shot is one of the best weapons in maybe the greatest weapon in all of basketball. And it can make you win a national championship, and it can make you lose a national championship. And I think defensively, guarding the 3 becomes the most important thing you have to do and the hardest thing you have to do. And right now, those guys are on a roll. And they're shooting it with a lot of confidence. So we're going to have to figure out a way to minimize that. I don't know that you can completely eliminate it, but I think we're going to have to figure out a way to minimize that tomorrow night.
Next question from Doug.
Morning, Geno. Doug Farmer, the AP. It's rare when a kid comes into a school and says that her goal is to win 4 titles in 4 years, especially for a freshman to do that. Usually you hear that in the pros, maybe not in college. And then she's backed it up, getting you 1 game away from it. And then last night she says you guys can go out with a win tomorrow, which again is rare to hear in college sports. Just your thoughts on her making that goal 4 years ago and now backing it up and potentially doing it tomorrow.
Well, I just hope she has more national championships than fouls tomorrow night. That would help us a lot. Dodo. You know, maybe she said it because she knew she had Mo and Tuck. And there's some comfort in that. But having said it, and now being on, you know, on the verge of being able to do it, those are amazing things that you know, it's like a storybook. It's just, you couldn't, if you wrote it, they would think it was, you know, a made-for-TV novel or something, you know, miniseries. It just doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. And the fact that she's that close to it, and Mariah's that close to it, and Tuck is that close to it, you just got to admire it. You really do. You have to admire her. She's got a lot of guts. Stewie does. And she's, you know what we talk about in our team a lot is courage. And it takes a lot of courage sometimes to say certain things and to be able to do certain things. And we've tried to explain to them that old saying that, you know, what Churchill said, courage is grace under fire. It's not it's not the absence of fear. It's being able to do what you have to do while you're afraid. And I think Stewie's been as good as anybody that's ever played basketball at being able to do exactly what she has to do while being afraid.
Question here, Michelle.
Geno, with Diana, Maya, and Stewie, we can see what they're great at. With each woman, could you talk about the biggest thing she had to conquer in order to reach greatness while she was playing with you?
The whole thing about your greatest strength being your greatest weakness, that's, for all three of them, that really rings true. You know, I remember Diana's comment when somebody asked her, why would you go to Connecticut when they have 3 All-Americans at the position you want to play? And she said, if they didn't have them, I wouldn't want to go there. So right away, you know she's telling you, I'm going there because I'm better than them. So that was her greatest strength. And initially, as a freshman, what she had to overcome was, no, you're not, but you will be. And little by little, she did. And Maya was like she's like a corporation, like built from top to bottom, like, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and nothing's going to get in my way. And Maya had to learn to play with 4 other really good players on her team, because Maya always wanted to do everything by herself. And she thought that she could do everything by herself and win it all by herself. And after we lost in Tampa, she came in my office next week and sat down on the couch, and she goes, I just realized I can't do this. I said, really? You just realized? That's the impression she wants you to have. And you look at her when she walks out on the court, and she doesn't look like Maya. She's not built like a great player. So everything about her is deceptive, including the fact that all of us see a different side of her. And we've had to impress upon Stewie that things are not as easy as you make them look. And the minute you think that they're as easy as you make them look, then we're going to have a problem. And a lot of times her freshman year, she wanted it to be easy. And when it wasn't, she couldn't deal with it. And now she embraces when it's hard. She's the first one now to talk about, hey, this is going to be hard, but we got it. And if I could put something of all three of them together, but then every coach probably thinks that too.
Next question here from Mike.
Geno, with the following that Syracuse has, what would be the significance, do you think, of them being really good year after year?
Significance in the big picture or in Syracuse in their league? Well, I've always said that women's basketball has a hard time being great in big cities because of the competition. So when you're in a city like Syracuse, where the men's team is the pro franchise, and they lead the country in attendance every year, can that spill over into women's basketball? Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it. Because it's a captive audience. So if every year they were a threat to win the national championship or compete at that level like their men are, I don't know that they're going to get 29,000 soon at the Carrier Dome, but I can see them doing what South Carolina's done. It just, in a couple of years, it happened at South Carolina. Can it happen there? No question about it. I'm just glad it didn't happen 5 years ago.
Question here from Gene.
Gene Wong, Washington Post. Gene, I know you've spoken previously about how valuable having been an assistant was at Virginia in helping prepare you to become a head coach. What in particular was important about that time, and was there anything you learned from Debbie that you still apply today?
Yeah. I was just thinking about this when I was watching one of the NCAA games, and it dawned on me. My 4 years at Virginia, I was probably surrounded by the greatest collection of coaches ever at one school. And I took advantage of it as much as I could. The way Debbie put the program together, from nothing to a national championship contender, and her just organizational skills. And my next door neighbor was Bruce Arena, the World Cup and Olympic coach. And his assistant was Bob Bradley, the next World Cup coach. And upstairs we had Terry Holland, Jim Larinaga, and Dave Odom. 3 pretty good coaches. And I remember every day and every year it seemed like somebody new would come on board. And when Rick Carlisle started coaching after we finished playing, the only downside probably was when Seth Greenberg joined the staff and we had to listen to him. But that was okay. So my 4 years there, I probably learned more about coaching and about doing things program-wise and how to handle the expectations of a place like UVA where you're expected to be great. And I also learned how to embrace greatness because we live with it every day. We were convinced we were at the best school, we got the best kids academically, and we aspired to be the best at everything. And I came away from there thinking, this is exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a little bit from every one of those people and see what happens.
Question in the back here.
Morning, Geno. Jeff Jacobs, Hartford Current. Rightfully so, so much attention's paid to the three seniors, but Kaylu Samuelson, who's arguably going to be the next great one, suffers an injury that's going to knock her out of the national championship game. How do you walk her through and help her handle, like, the psyche of that? You know, like, probably like 2 years from now, we'll be looking back and asking her a lot of questions about this day. How do you walk her through something like that she is enduring right now?
You know, I've never been through it before where it happens on that stage. You know, we've been hit by injuries leading up to this moment in the Final Four that have derailed some great teams that we've had, but it's never happened, you know, here between both games. So it's new for all of us. And Lou's a pretty sensitive kid, he's kind of emotional kid, and you know, as the game went on, she became more, obviously, more aware of, you know, this is what it is. And today, I'm sure it'll be difficult when we go to practice. And tomorrow, when she shows up at the arena and she's not playing, it's going to be difficult. When this is all you think about when you're in high school is winning a national championship in college, and now here your team is and you can't play. The one thing I did say to her last night was, well, this will make you work even harder to make sure that you get back so that you'll get a chance to have your time. But right now it's not your time, it's somebody else's time. And she did it on the very first play of the game and then played the rest of the first half on it. So I asked her, I said, why did you say anything? And she said, because it was just bothering me a little bit, and I thought there was a stone in my foot. And I thought Rosemary could just take it out or tape me up and put a little pad in there. And she started poking around and said, uh-oh. And it's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate that we're playing a team that we could use another big guard.
Question down here on the aisle.
Hey, Coach Lakin Littman, USA Today Sports. I'm sure you've been asked this already, but how fitting is it that Brianna's last game is against her hometown team in Syracuse? A minute ago, she was talking about how in high school she and her dad would go to women's games and they'd eat nachos together while watching. So just how fitting is it kind of full circle for her?
Like I said before, it's if you wrote this, it would sound like somebody made it up. And it's real life. She is a huge Syracuse fan. Stewie is a huge Syracuse fan. She knows, and she's come right out and said it. Like if she was a guy playing high school ball there's no doubt in her mind she'd be playing at Syracuse. But it just wasn't the right time for her to go there, and Connecticut was a better place for her. And there's a soft spot, I think, in her heart for Syracuse, which she'll probably admit to today and Wednesday, but not tomorrow. But it's ironic. It's a great story. It's a great story. It really is.
Question right here from Doug.
Geno, I think I've asked you this question the last 3 years, but I figured keep this consistent.
You want a different answer?
Hopefully.
All right.
Or the same one, whatever you want to give.
All right.
You guys are the ultimate closers in basketball. I mean, 10 for 10. People don't do that. So just what makes you guys rise to the occasion that in the title game you're just have been impossible to beat?
I don't know, Doug. I don't know. I think at this time of the year, your confidence level and your ability have to mesh. You know, there's teams maybe that come here with a lot more confidence than ability, and it catches up to you, or a lot more ability than they have confidence. So when those two things mesh, I think you have a pretty unbeatable combination, you know, and we've generally put ourselves in a position where we've got enough talent, we've got enough ability to win, and our confidence level is really high. And you've got, you know, how many? 10 championships, right? Well, 3 people are directly responsible for 8 of them. So when you've got those 3 in your lineup, Stewie, D, and Maya, at this time of the year, generally speaking, if you have the best player on the floor, good things can happen. And generally speaking, every time we've come to the Final Four with one of those guys, we've had the best player on the floor. Doesn't mean they won all the time, but so. But I'm, you know, like everybody else, streaks are meant to end someday.
We'll take 2 more questions right down here, and then Michelle.
Geno, Howard Mendel, Excel Sports. Just, you've talked about the championships you've won, and rather than comparing them to other streets and other sports, it's sort of its own thing. I'm just wondering how you, as sort of a broad-based sports fan, have put what you're doing in historical context, number one, and then number two, whether the difference in terms of being able to appreciate and enjoy it on a day like this comes from just the full body of work and the number of people whose lives you've touched over this period of time.
I don't know what the historical perspective is in terms of that, big picture wise, but I just feel like I'm pretty realistic about what the expectation level is with each team that we have. And you feel like a sense of, okay, well, we've been given this to work with, and the end result with this can be, should be a national championship. So we try to ride that out. And then some years we look around and we go, I don't think we have all the pieces to win a national championship, or we need to get lucky. So we're pretty sensible when it comes to what we think we have. You know, like, we're not fooling ourselves into thinking that we could come here without, you know, 1 or 2 great players and win. I mean, you can. I mean, you know, there's nobody voted anybody on Syracuse's team All-American, and here they are playing for the national championship. So I mean, you can. I think the key to our success is we've been able to just do that with some great players, and never really thinking in terms of where does that put us in terms of, you know, the history of this game or any other game. And maybe because I'm conscious of the fact that people devalue women's sports, you know? So it's like you're always dealing with half the population that's going to devalue it no matter what we do. So you don't really get caught up in like, wow, you know, hey, in big content. You know, you just got so many haters out there that you just don't even let yourself go out there. You just go, hey, the people in my locker room, whatever we're doing, it's for us, not for anybody else.
Last question right here, Michelle.
You know, Mike Neighbors said last night that it's a little tough to prepare for Syracuse because it's tough to simulate and practice what they do in the way that they play. Is that an issue for you guys at all?
We'll find out. I mean, they are very disruptive in what they do. Very disruptive. And I don't know, having been in the same league with them for a bunch of years, is any advantage or not, I don't know, because it's different cast of characters, different style of play. But they cause problems for you because, they remind me a little bit of DePaul. They create an environment in the game where if you let your emotions get away from you, it plays right into their hands. And a big focus for us tomorrow night is to make sure that we manage it properly and take advantage of whatever they're doing that we can exploit, but not be caught up in the disturbing effects that they have on your offense.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Connecticut will be